We are talking all things ChatGPT and getting found in ChatGPT. So I brought in the big guns. Um, the man that you see on screen, his name is Jack. He is one of our senior SEO strategists. Very, very passionate about SEO, has years and years of experience. I promise to keep Jack on task because when he gets excited, he likes to talk about stuff, especially SEO. So we're going to go for about half an hour here. And the topic we are talking about is getting found in ChatGPT. We have a bunch of clients that have been asking us, how does my business get found in ChatGPT? And if I'm not there, what do I need to do to get found? So, obviously, this magical tool called ChatGPT, everyone's best friends. It knows a whole bunch about me. I've fed it a whole bunch of data. Um, it is just an invaluable resource that I think a lot of people are now relying on a day-to-day basis. How we sort of see it, like I guess the question we ask is Google dead, Jack? And my answer to that is no, in the fact that um, it's definitely losing some market share, but its place and its tool, its position as a tool is in and around providing breadth and verification. And this fundamentally hasn't changed in the over 25 years that it's been around. And the fact that you go to Google, you type in a search phrase, it lists, 10 results are on the homepage plus a bunch of ads and other sort of variations on that. But it's seen as more objective and it allows users to select from lots of different sources, i.e., different links to different websites. Whereas the fundamental difference there with ChatGPT, this is all about synthesis and it's all about speed. It knows a lot about you. It's search history. If you've fed it a whole bunch of stuff, it's built a profile of you. Um, but it will convincingly look you in the eye and potentially tell you the wrong information, lie to you. Um, but it's super fast and it can give you an answer really, really quick. So there's a place for both of these tools. Um, so there's a really cool study that we'll send out a follow-up email with all this information, all this intel. It's well worth having a look at this article here. This is one of the graphs that they cited, and essentially this is around referrals being sent to websites. So referrals from Google and referrals from ChatGPT. And you can see over time just how that is growing exponentially. But also Google is growing as well at the same time. Um, Really, like Google is still pushing out 3 times the amount of clicks compared to ChatGPT. But what we're seeing on both platforms is this the risk for us as business owners is the zero click risk is rising. So what that means is people are getting their answers on the platforms and they're not jumping out to people's respective websites. Um, but in all of this, data context matters. So um, and we'll get to the end of this presentation and there's probably not going to be a whole bunch of new information here in terms of the fundamentals are create good quality content, house that on your website, make sure it's well structured, do all the fundamentals that you need to do, um, provide useful, helpful content that solves people's problems, and the LLMs will cite you. So that's the sort of the fundamental context. There's some subtleties in there. Um, in preparing for this, um, Jacko dropped a real truth bomb. But before I share that truth bomb, we're generating a bunch of leads off the back of ChatGPT. This is what we're seeing from our own lead generation techniques. So it is well worth making the time, the effort to dig into this because us as business owners, we need to do that. Jack, can we directly submit our site to ChatGPT and have it index our content and send lots of traffic our way?
Yeah, unfortunately, doesn't quite work that way. So with standard search engines like Google or Bing, you create the page and then you can have a what's called like a Google Search Console account, and you can submit that page or that or your website as a whole onto that platform, and it will essentially index your page, which essentially means make it visible online. Unfortunately, ChatGPT doesn't have that same feature. In fact, ChatGPT actually, in a lot of circumstances, will reference Google or Bing for its information and recommendation, and kind of piggyback what Google's showing. And yeah, it's important to understand those subtle differences before you jump into the questions of like, how do I appear in ChatGPT? Because fundamentally, you do definitely need to have your eggs in line for SEO first. And then
Mhm.
once you've got that, you can sort of start to branch out into ChatGPT and see what you can do to help increase your visibility in that space.
Yeah. And really, the truth bomb that you dropped is in and around. If you crush it from an SEO perspective, you're probably going to crush it on ChatGPT. And you said, like, I've never seen a client who hasn't invested in their SEO not do well from a GPT perspective.
Yeah, 100%. I think, like I was mentioning before, so ChatGPT definitely needs Google's assistance and search engines as a whole's assistance when it's coming up with more up-to-date recommendations, where Google doesn't rely on ChatGPT at all when it's deciding what websites to rank depending on the query input. So I think it's good to be able to distinguish those two factors.
Cool. Um, so it makes sense as an action item if you're a business owner or you're an owner of a website, actually audit, where your business is actually showing. So as I said, we'll share these slides. You can copy and paste the prompts. But long story short, we want to say based on your training data up to September 2024. So that is then where basically there's big input into ChatGPT. Um, what information do you have about my business? Do not access the live web data. Only provide what was included in your original data set. Um, so that's a really good, interesting way to start to see what it actually knows about you.
Yeah, 100%. I think as well with obviously the web being such a massive place, like Google, ChatGPT, it can't continuously be up to date with everything that's out there on the
Mhm.
web. So it's essentially at this stage, it has taken in all the information from the internet up until September 2024.
Yeah.
But then any queries where it might need more live information, it's going to do live searches on Google and Bing. And so that's why
Yeah.
it's still important. You want to test your website to see what its general understanding is of your business without relying on going online to find the information. And that'll help you determine whether you are sort of on its radar or whether you need to do a bit more work to
Mm,
get picked up by the platform.
that's cool. So, as an extension of that, we actually asked ChatGPT if it uses Google search results, and this was the response. You just want to talk us through this, Jack?
Yeah, not a problem. So yeah, like I was mentioning, like I said, so it's sort of capped at 2024 in September in terms of the memory it's stored in its database. But a lot of queries, it's going to register that it needs a more up-to-date piece of advice to
Mhm.
provide its users. So in a lot of instances, it's going to live scan the search results and look at things like pages that are ranking highly for specific keywords, or check out up-to-date Google Business Profile review data,
Yeah.
up-to-date like brand mentions across third-party platforms, etc. And it'll use that information to help summarize its findings and provide a recommendation. So yeah, like in short, it's definitely still uses Google on occasion, depending on the context of the query.
So this basically means that we still need to nail the fundamentals of SEO. So we can imagine. So we started a new business. It was a start at the start of this year. So post that initial data dump that ChatGPT had back in 2024, like we wanted to be able to say, here are the four things that you could do to give your website and your business the best possible chance of getting indexed. So we're going to run through these. The first is the Google Search Console. What is the Google Search Console, Jack?
Yeah, essentially, so you can create a Google Search Console account and then add some code to your website. And what it does, I think, like I mentioned previously, it allows you to, the main point of it is essentially so you can submit pages for
Hmm.
indexing, which is just a nerdy way of saying you can submit your page to become visible on Google as a platform.
Yep.
So, sounds obvious, but you'd be surprised how many businesses miss this step and then they create a website and then 6 months down the track wonder why no one's like contacting them through their
Yep.
website submission form or any other contact box on the website. And that might just be because their website wasn't visible in the first place. So
Hmm.
definitely the first step you want to do is set this up. It's not the most technical thing in the world. There's definitely YouTube tutorials out there that can help you if you want to double
Yep.
check. Probably a quicker way to see if your website's live is just doing a site search. So, um, yeah, just putting sites colon and then your domain, which is essentially your website URL, and pressing enter. This will show you whether Google can see your website or not and what pages it has indexed. So
Hmm.
in our case, obviously, all of our pages are indexed and we don't have this issue. But if you were for your business to input your URL, like site colon, and then your website, and then nothing really appears, or maybe you have 20 pages, but only two of them appear, this would be definitely the step that I would recommend reviewing is going into Google Search Console and making sure your website is indexed.
Number two is what we call GBP, Google Business Profile.
Yeah, you're definitely right. It's a very simple thing to do, and it's not rocket science, but again, you'd be surprised how many businesses don't go to that extra mile in terms of optimizing their Google business profile in when it comes to like getting active reviews
Yep.
and filling out important details that'll help educate the client, the potential customer about their business. And especially as you see on the right, when someone goes onto Google Maps, if you're a business, say like a mechanic or someone with a physical location, and someone goes on the Google Map to look for you, you just kind of know where to hide. So you really need to make sure you have as many reviews as possible, obviously positive reviews, as well as just putting your business in the best light. So making sure you have high quality images,
Hmm.
your opening hours, contact details are
Yep.
accurate, any products or services you offer, and description of your company, etc. Just making sure all those basics are filled out. It sounds simple, but yeah, you'd be surprised how many leads or customers you can find just by doing that.
Cool. Yeah, and it's we're going to show you the inner workings of ChatGPT in terms of how it decides what to rank. The third thing here is really like a sort of foundational structural piece where this is what the information architecture of an IT website. You can see that under their services. So this is just their services section. They have that categorized under like IT support, cybersecurity, cloud, professional services, and then they go a layer deeper, and you've got all then the sub services. So really, it's about getting very structured. The overarching sort of principle here is one page, one topic. It makes it very clear for both Google and the LLM to be able to see what a specific topic's about and establish, a knowledge bank on what it is that you actually do.
Yeah, definitely. I think just to keep it top level, probably one thing to factor when we're talking about this is just starting with Google and also ChatGPT as well. If you were to say, let's just take cloud IT support as an example,
Mhm.
and say someone was to type in cloud IT support Gold Coast, Google's aim is to provide the best possible user experience. And that means providing the most relevant pages related to what the person has searched for.
Yep.
So they're pretty much always going to be showing pages around the topic of, in that instance, cloud IT support. And then again, if they put that modifier like Gold Coast, businesses specifically on the Gold Coast that can help. And so if
Yeah.
your website doesn't have a dedicated landing page to each of the services, products, or product categories that you want to sell more of, then you're going to really run the risk of being ignored when either people on Google and then also
Yeah.
ChatGPT search for something specific to that product, service, or category.
Nailed it, Jacko. And then finally, the fourth step, and we were joking about this before when we were putting these slides together. Jack actually started his career working for a business like this, and everyone's probably seen them in terms of these online directories. And when we started doing SEO like 15 years ago, it was all about the directories, the backlink. Um, and it's pretty crazy that in today's sort of world that the LLMs are still relying really, really heavily on each of these different sort of directories.
Yeah, 100%. And there's probably two ways you can go with these directories. You've got your basic profiles, which I would definitely recommend creating at like as soon as possible when you
Hmm.
build your website, just so Google has that uh, d- third party data to back up that you're a genuine business. And then the
Yeah.
second avenue, which we'll touch on a bit later, is more the like featuring in those directories related to your niche or service or anything that you want to get more clients in.
Yeah.
I know sometimes you go on some of those sort of directory sites and roll your eyes and they're like this is just like a paid subscription thing, but it's definitely, especially for ChatGPT, seems to be weighted pretty heavily. And so I definitely recommend looking into different like top 10
Hmm.
best plumbers of Gold Coast, etc.
Yeah.
articles. And that way, yeah, that will definitely improve your, I guess, ChatGPT's trust in your business
Yeah,
based on
that's
its
cool.
backlinking.
Yeah. All right. So, assuming we've ticked all those boxes and you've done all that stuff, um, let's sort of peel back the layers a little bit in terms of how ChatGPT figures out how to answer a question. Um, and so just talk us through this logic, because really like between the two platforms, um, there's two different paths to ultimately the same destination. So just talk us through like the Google user journey and the ChatGPT user journey.
Yeah, for sure. I'd say probably me personally, where clients get the most confused is they, I get a lot of questions around how do you know what to optimize for ChatGPT when everyone types in a different
Mm,
variation of a prompt. And while that is true, and we can touch on ways to make sure you're found for the types of variations that you want to appear for, fundamentally, whether you're using Google or ChatGPT to get to your like final destination in terms of a business you're looking to go for your needs, you're essentially looking for the same thing. So with Google, the old school method would be obviously searching for a keyword. I'm just going to use the
mhm.
example of plumber Gold Coast in this instance, just so
Yeah.
it's easy to follow along at home. But probably just like envision your own business in this situation. But say I typed in plumber Gold Coast, it would show, the 10 blue links, the ads, a
Yeah.
map. I'd scan those. I'd click a couple of websites based on whatever stuck out to me at the time.
Hmm.
I'd manually do that research, and then eventually I would contact, call, or inquire the business that
Yeah.
appealed the most to me. Where ChatGPT is a bit different. Obviously, you have a bit more of a dialogue with ChatGPT. So in this instance, the journey might have changed. Instead of just asking for a plumber on the Gold Coast, the person might have asked, "Hey, I have a blocked toilet. What can I do to fix it?" ChatGPT would then provide some ideas on things you can do to help fix the problem. Let's just say that hasn't worked. Then you obviously the user would come back to ChatGPT, "Hey, this device hasn't worked. Who are the best plumbers on the Gold Coast to help?" And then obviously ChatGPT would suggest a couple of businesses, and you would take that information and reach out to one or a couple of them.
Hmm.
But yeah, the thing to keep in mind is by the end of the ChatGPT search, you've also essentially just typed in plumber on the Gold Coast, just like you had on Google. It's just instead of having to manually find for yourself
Yeah.
which provider you want to go for. ChatGPT kind of does that legwork for you and just
Yeah.
presents it on a shiny silver platter.
Yeah. And that's that synthesis that we're talking about. So, just bringing up this existing chat that we were playing around with. Um, it's the same deal. Can you recommend a good plumber on the Gold Coast? This is typically then the results you'd get. Interestingly, it's suggested 110 Armadale, which is nowhere near the Gold Coast. But it's grabbed one of our clients here, DCM. Um, it gives a summary of the top choices, et cetera, et cetera. So this is what you normally see. And then you followed up with this really cool little sort of prompt here about providing your recommendations, but fully explaining how you determined and ranked them. Please include the exact search queries you ran, the sources you reviewed, the features you extracted from those sources, the weighting you applied to different factors, tiebreakers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? How did you give us that list is essentially what we're asking. Um, and then it went away and it thought for almost 5 minutes, which was really cool. Um, and then it provides some really interesting information in and around how it arrived at that. So I guess these are the sort of like, different features, benefits, unique selling propositions. But then interestingly, how it ranked them. Um, Replicable step by step, the exact search queries that it ran internally, the sources that it reviewed, and you can see that it's obviously grabbed it from their existing website, um, this Bird Eye Experience marketing platform.
It's a third
Interesting.
party platform,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. Yellow Pages. Um, and you can sort of see that each of the respective sites for these businesses are referenced. Features extracted from those sources in terms of, the 5 or 6 things that it deems as really important for an end user. Um, and then gives us insights into its scoring model and weightings. So how the mathematics that it actually went through to arrive at this point, which is really, really insightful. Um, and feel free to jump in here at any point, Jack, about any other sort of insights.
Yeah, probably one thing that definitely stuck out to me straight away. If you just scroll back to the searches that it performed,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
here.
green text.
Hmm.
So what this tells me straight away is that probably based on its September 2024 data, it already had a pretty good idea on the websites it wanted to recommend. And as you can see, it's just going straight to review platforms for these specific businesses. And then on top of that, it doesn't show it in here, but in other prompts I've completed, it'll also review the live search results for the relevant, like related keywords. So in this
Mhm.
instance, plumber Gold Coast. And yeah, definitely, I feel like this is definitely a gold nugget because if your business isn't really known by ChatGPT or respected by ChatGPT, it's probably just going to ignore you when it's going through this process. So
Yeah.
something to definitely keep in mind, and something I definitely found interesting across all the testing I've done over the last few months is, yeah, just how much reliance it has on like third-party review websites or third-party
Mm.
directory websites. The ones that sort of you would do as like a checklist thing for SEO until maybe last year when ChatGPT came out, but now it's kind of like a critical step you need to include when you're doing your like ChatGPT optimization strategy.
So interesting. And it's like, then like what's happening with maybe like you've got all these businesses that have all these like really low reviews and horrible testimonials, all this sort of stuff. Like they're just doomed really. Because you think about the fundamental principle of business is like provide good quality service and products, have a bunch of raving fans out there that are happy to sing it from the rooftops. So, um, yeah, if you're not doing that, then it's going to make life really, really difficult moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. Probably just one more thing to note before you move on. If you just scroll up a touch, John.
Sorry, mate, I'm getting
No, you're
excited.
right. I just say take a look when you're doing this for yourself in your like your own target search queries. Just look at the different like the weighting that the ChatGPT has on the different metrics.
Mm,
And I find for a lot of most times, reputation is such a huge
Mm,
element of how it determines who it wants to promote. And it just comes back to that Google business profile and third-party review platforms, just being active and getting as many of your clients or customers to fill out positive reviews as possible.
mm,
It's such an easy thing to do, but it's just so many businesses overlook, and it really helps not only build a moat in terms of like social proof compared to competitors, but also ChatGPT and other LLMs just seem to really rely on that as like the key
mm.
metric when determining who to recommend.
Yeah. Then we've got what else? Ranking logic and tiebreakers, if applicable. Um, limitations. That's all pretty open and transparent. Um, like it did not verify the licenses of the QBCC. Like super interesting as well. Like, will it get to that point? Who knows? Probably yes. You know, it'll tap into all these different data sources. So,
Yeah,
uh,
one thing to know as well, ChatGPT didn't really used to give us this level of insight. It's something I've just noticed in the past couple of months.
mhm.
And I just think once you've got your SEO in order, it's just a really cool way to reverse engineer the software. And it just gives you so many actionable insights, not only to appear in ChatGPT, but to also consider different content angles that
Yeah,
will resonate more with your target audience that you might not have considered otherwise.
yeah. And then that's where you can go deeper, start comparing different competitors.
Yeah, so in this prompt, essentially, I believe I'm just asking, if you just scroll back
Sorry,
up.
mate.
Yeah, I've just grabbed a random plumber from the second page. And this prompt here, essentially, if you're a business that isn't appearing on ChatGPT, I've just got this business from page two. But you can instead just swap out with your business URL, as you can see in the first sentence of the prompt. And you can actually get ChatGPT to compare the metrics that you use to evaluate the initial businesses and where
Mhm.
your own business falls up a bit short. And then that way you have really clear, actionable insights on what you can do to improve your content quality and overall your ChatGPT visibility.
Cool. Love that. So you can really like nerd out on this stuff, and go quite deep. Really, then it's just a rinse and repeat. So you can do that specifically for different services, different products, product categories. Focus on different location-based questions as well. So every location is going to be slightly different from a geographical perspective.
Yeah, 100%. So definitely focus on the types of prompts that generate will lead to generating income for your business. So
Hmm.
my opinion, I personally would ignore doing this test for say blog topics or more top of the marketing funnel articles. Start definitely with the pages, like your service pages, product category pages, depending on the type of business you are. Focus on those first, and then once you've done that, focus on location-based questions. This is more for local service businesses. Sorry,
Hmm.
if you run like an e-com or SaaS business, you can go in so many different directions. But just to keep it simple,
Yeah.
you are a location-based business. Once you've handled those more like bottom of the funnel queries, just then focus on location-based questions that your buyers might be asking to learn more about that product or service before committing. So an example of this might be we have a client who's a pool builder on the Gold Coast,
Hmm.
and a pretty common search query on Google is how much does a pool cost on the Gold Coast?
Hmm.
And yeah, just making sure you have that article online because if you do and rank well in Google, again, like ChatGPT is most likely going to reference that when you type a similar search query in, sorry, a similar prompt into ChatGPT, I should say.
Cool. Love that. Other places that GPT is pulling data from, Reddit. You'll actually see that Reddit is now appearing in a lot of Google search results. So normally you get like one or two business, and then you'll get some forums pulling through, historical Reddit archives. Obviously, YouTube with the transcriptions, LinkedIn videos, LinkedIn posts, any sort of like forums, industry sites, all that sort of stuff. So, I think the fundamental thing here is the more places you show up the more chances you have to be part of the conversation.
One thing is, I mean, it's important in SEO, but it's also very important in ChatGPT as well. It's just
Mm,
how recognizable is your brand across the web in your industry or
yeah.
location. So I guess just comparing one a business A versus business B, if you're business A and you have a lot of people hyping you up on Reddit threads related to your business, and you have like a YouTube presence, a LinkedIn presence, etc. You've mentioned on industry publications, etc. Versus business B that has none of those,
Hmm.
it's pretty clear which one ChatGPT is going to favor. So
Totally.
going
Yeah.
that extra mile can really pay dividends.
My parting shots. We banged on about it. Double down on Google reviews. Like this is just the social proof that people are looking for. It the cool thing about Google reviews is it's in the client's language terminology. It's generated by them. It's not engineered or fabricated in any way. Um, and then like probably the other opportunity in all this is, I think AI is going to become a great democratizer in terms of people's ability to, create content, publish content, and get their products and services out there to the world. Um, but what people can't replicate is that personal branding piece. So, being that key person of influence, that authority, as you said, Jack, and almost going analog, where you create these competitive advantages through, offline awards and ceremonies and community style events. And the more stuff you can do that still ties into your digital footprint, the greater authority that you're going to be. So that's an opportunity to differentiate from everyone else that's just hiding behind a screen. What about you, mate? What are your parting shots?
Yeah, probably number one is don't be afraid to niche down. So if you have a very specific target audience or you serve a particular industry, definitely look into creating a page on your website that promotes this. So an example would be if you're a service-based business, let's just say like an accountant, and you specialize in a couple of industries, say e-commerce, for example, I would definitely create that landing page on how you best serve e-commerce businesses and really tailor the content specifically towards that industry.
Hmm.
Plays like that can really be beneficial when someone does get a bit more specific with their like prompting. And if you do so, you'll definitely be top of mind for ChatGPT when it's coming up with a recommendation. I mean, like I mentioned, third-party brand mentions are still definitely at a premium. We won't go back into the thread, but you can literally click on the sources that
Yeah,
ChatGPT
yeah, yeah, yeah.
used, and definitely use that to reverse engineer what pages you want to get featured on.
Hmm.
And then finally, sort of like we've harped on before, like ChatGPT visibility is still just starts with a solid SEO fundamentals, not the other way around. So
Yeah, cool.
definitely prioritize the SEO. And once you've done so, then start to use those prompts that we just showed you to reverse engineer how to appear on ChatGPT as well.
Yeah, awesome. We've got a question from Warren. Does chat take any consideration of your personal brand standing when evaluating your business? That's exactly what I just said in my parting shot, where it's just like if you are established as an expert, an authority, a key person of influence in your specific industry, then more than likely you're going to have a footprint. You probably sit on like associations, you've probably published a whole bunch of authority content, maybe you've written a book. You've probably done a whole bunch of keynote speaking that's like indexed on different sites. Um, you sit on boards or associations, all this sort of stuff, right? So it's this footprint that all gets mashed together.
Probably on top of that, John, like brand is becoming such a massive ranking factor
Mm,
on Google itself. So if you have a really big brand and you have a wide base of customers searching for you by your brand name,
yeah.
that can really benefit your SEO in the long term. And then, like
Mhm.
we've been drumming into throughout the presentation, if you rank at the top of Google, you really are improving your chances of ranking in ChatGPT. So it definitely benefits.
Yeah, cool. Um, there was a question around adding the llms.txt file into the website. What's your take on that, Jack? And Is that an effective way of doing that? Are people taking, or are these LLMs taking notice of it?
Yeah, it's something we have been following. We haven't really found personally any evidence of it improving the likelihood of appearing
Mm.
in ChatGPT, but it is definitely something we are keeping an eye on.
It's very similar to like, robots.txt where you can basically it's a structured text file that gives instructions on how the site can be interpreted and different parameters around that essentially.
In the instance of where we went through that thread, like our client DCM Plumbing obviously ranks first, and we don't have any LLMS.txt file set up for
Mm.
them. So it definitely doesn't hinder you. And like I said, it's pretty up in the air on whether it
Yeah.
even helps. If you want to test it, I feel like it's definitely something like feel free to, but
Yeah.
I don't
Can't
think it's a
hurt.
make or break addition at this stage.
Yeah. And then final question, how do you tailor your prompts to target the right language and content to generate? How do you know the quality of your prompts?
One thing that really helps with my prompting is simply explaining to ChatGPT exactly what you're trying to achieve, and whether that even takes 5 minutes brainstorming and articulating from like your mind onto the
Mm,
keyboard what you're really
mm.
trying to achieve, and then just simply asking ChatGPT or Perplexity, whatever LLM you use, with this information, what would be the best prompt for an LLM like yourself to provide the best possible outcome. Honestly, starting there is a great way to help you create prompts that'll get the
Yep.
best out of what you're looking for.
We're going to keep going. There's a couple more questions in here, Jack. From an
Yeah, go
SEO
for it.
perspective, if creating local landing pages for areas you service, how do you manage not having a heap of duplicated content? Good question.
Assuming you mean just the different services, let's just say back to the plumber example, like hot
Yeah,
water system or leaky taps. Yeah, just trying your best to focus on content that helps build trust with your target audience, specifically in relation to that one service. So let's just
but I
say
think
hot
the
water
angle here
system.
was around like different suburbs as
Oh,
well.
I
Yeah,
understand. Yeah. Yeah, that can be a bit fickle. From our experience, you don't have, you definitely don't want to just create duplicate content across the board, but you generally, without, unless you completely spam your website with hundreds of location pages, you can definitely get away with having at least somewhat similar content, or at least the themes of your content being pretty similar. We
hmm.
generally like to reword the content on the page just so it's not fully duplicated. A couple of things you might want to consider if there's anything specific to each suburb that's unique in terms of the service. That's not always the case, but if that is possible, definitely adding that to the content to help differentiate a bit.
Yeah, yeah,
In general, though, yeah, I guess I've been in the industry for a number of years now. You can get away with having pretty similar content just because the search intent of the user is the same. It's just the location is
correct.
different.
Yeah,
And so,
that's
yeah,
the
like I
variation.
said, if you don't spam the system, you should be fine.
Yeah,
Just focus on suburbs that actually are getting searched. Like people are searching for that specific keyword. So on the Gold Coast, for example, people might be searching for like Service Plus Palm Beach, Service Plus Burleigh, but if they're not searching for, say, Service Plus Carrara, then don't include that on your website. Just
got it.
solely focus on the pages that are actually driving traffic.
Yeah, and that comes into that quick keyword research piece. And then finally, do you find YouTube is an effective platform to use? If I keep adding video content, will this help my SEO and awareness rather than listing on various sites?
It really depends on your industry. If
Mm,
I could provide some context on the industry, that would help. But just off top of mind, it can definitely be helpful if you say have a service that you don't really need to service the people of a specific location. So let's just take an accountant for an example. They might be based on the Gold Coast, but realistically they can serve anyone Australia wide, and YouTube can be like a really powerful platform for those more like top of the funnel type educational
Mhm.
pieces that would build trust with a user. So back on
Yeah.
the accountant and e-commerce um, area I was discussing before, if you wanted to say create a bunch of videos that would be really helpful for an e-commerce business and their accounting, I think that can definitely help establish credibility amongst that target market, which
Mm.
would not only help drive leads potentially down the line, but also, like we said with the LLMs like ChatGPT, it will eventually understand that you kind of are an expert
Yeah.
in this
It'll suck up
niche
that
and
data.
it'll help you get cited on ChatGPT. So I would definitely, depending on the industry, recommend it.
This is the exact process we use. Like we'll take this recording, it'll be published to YouTube. On YouTube in the description, it'll be linked back to the respective page. We set up a page on our website. It's basically like a blog post that YouTube gets embedded in there. There's then a summary of the conversation with graphics and images and diagrams alongside that YouTube video, and it all just comes together really nicely.